this panel is focused on programmable cryptography. And really, I think a lot of what we'll end up talking about is applications and the systems that we'll build above the cryptographic primitives in support of privacy. So thinking about, great, you've got these underlying building blocks that are a lot of what we think of in privacy, but then there's a large systems layer to make it effective. And so we've got a set of projects represented here that have a set of problems each that they'll be able to describe of how we can leverage these privacy primitives into useful programmatic and eventually scalable systems. So with that, why don't we go down and do brief, under a minute introductions of each other, and then we'll get into some conversation.
Okay, so my name is Sandy. I'm an engineer by background. I started my careers at companies like Google and Facebook. Joined Web3 in 2017, worked on a sharded layer 1. And a few years ago, I started my own project, which is essentially Calimero, a peer-to-peer, like local-first peer-to-peer general-purpose framework for developers.
Thank you. Hey, all, I'm Sip. I'm the lead at Status Network. Status Network is incubated within the Status ecosystem. So we've been around since 2017. And right now we're focusing on building a vertically integrated stack that puts privacy forward, meaning private chat, private messaging, but also what I'm building specifically, which is a gasless L2, so natively gasless. There is no gas on the L2. It's replaced by reputation. And that unlocks a new type of anonymity sets that is not based on gas linkage. So there is no way to link the gas usage of an address with another one. And so that enables us to have kind of a composable privacy layer on top of the L2. So we are currently on testnet. We have our spam protection coming out next week on the testnet, which is based on ZK proof to prove that you're not spamming the network, and mainnet early next year.
Hey everybody. I'm Zach. I am the co-founder of the Aztec network. I'm also a software engineer and a cryptographer. And at Aztec, we are a privacy-first layer 2 on Ethereum. We're building a programmable private world computer. Basically, take everything that makes Ethereum great, everything we love about it, and add privacy by default.
Hello. I'm Suji. I'm the founder of Mass Network. We're about the same time with Status entered Web3 social when there's no Web3 word, around 2017. At first it's called Massbook, then Facebook was really angry, they want to sue us. Then we just go find Twitter. Twitter was very friendly at that time under Dorsey. And we did many crazy things, encryption, sending over a message. And if you remember Jeff Dossey's NFT sale in 21, that's also one of our platform company. Now it's under us. But it's just again, it's very small. I mean, every Web3 privacy thing is still very small, especially social. So we're just here to keep building. For just now, it's the nice year for me to enter crypto. So soon it's gonna be a decade. So hope some good thing happen.
Thank you. I think we actually have sort of an interesting progression up the stack that we can talk through in some sense, where we can go from the networking peer-to-peer layer up through how do we deal with chain metadata leakage onto the actual cryptographic and decentralization issues, and then into the application layer, and how do we make these social apps and so forth, and how does that behavior translate all the way back down. So with that structure, maybe the first prompt that I'll throw out is, we've got a lot of different places to be thinking about privacy, from IP addresses and network to on-chain, where all of these messages are now having some metadata, to the application layer, who can see it, decisions that we're making. How do we reason through this, and what are we most afraid of as we're approaching these systems?
Okay. Yeah, I have to worry about this day to day for the last 7 years. So I guess the question is, what do you worry about the most changes? Because for a very long time, it's not been possible technologically to build like a feature-rich privacy layers. Zcash really broke ground when they launched in 2015. But for many years afterwards, kind of private shielded transfers was basically the best that you could do. And the goal of full programmability was not really on the cards. And you can see this with all the ZK, L2 ZK EVMs being growing up over the years. None of them were really thinking about privacy because it's too hard. I can explain a few reasons why. Things like, well, if it's private, if you're hiding data and encrypting it and just proving statements about the encrypted data on chain, then you need to make those proofs locally, which means that you can't just scale your hardware to deal with intractable problems with proof times. Your memory resources are extremely finite. Back in the day when I got started, you also had problems like, well, back then snarks all needed trusted setups per application, and that doesn't scale either. So there was a technological feasibility issue, which I think now today has largely been solved-ish with networks like Aztec, networks like Maiden. But it's still very immature, right? Like, it's still like throughputs are not as good as they are on transparent networks. Aztec hasn't launched yet. Maiden still has a lot of centralization issues. So for me, I'm still very much focused on the technical feasibility part. Once that's been cracked, network level privacy is a huge deal that we've not put any effort into solving because others are. Things like NIM network. Is anybody here doing network level privacy? Is anyone here doing network level privacy?
Network level?
Yeah, as in to get your transaction into a mempool. Yeah, making that private.
RPC.
Yeah. Pardon?
RPC.
Yeah.
So private RPCs.
Yeah, private RPC. Even things like we're doing with ASIC, for example, states like syncing to the network, right? If you have private information that you need to download from the network, it's not feasible for a user if they're interacting with a DApp on a website or on their phone, they're not going to run a full node. So they need to ask somebody for their information, which leaks a bit of data, right? And you can solve that with things like trusted like TEs, but that's not a perfect solution. You can do it with oblivious message retrieval, but then that's not efficient enough. There are problems all over the stack that need a lot of people to work on them to solve.
So I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head here in terms of the stack. So the way at Status on how we're thinking about that, we want every level of the stack to be as private as possible, meaning that the basic level really is communication. So like, how do you send and receive messages and make sure that those messages are as shielded or as encrypted as possible, so that the recipient is not able to obtain a lot of metadata around who you are or where you're based and so on. So that's why we built Waku, which is kind of the successor to Whisper in the original Ethereum white paper, where it's peer-to-peer, end-to-end encrypted messaging system that is used by Railgun, actually, and a bunch of other companies in the space. And the way we see the interaction with the end user for privacy-focused protocols is through an app. Ultimately, people are going to go through apps. And so we want those apps to be as seamless as possible while integrating the highest level of privacy possible, which, of course, is always kind of a trade-off, right? It's like, oh, I want to use a private RPC. Cool, a private RPC, you will have probably like a 1 or 2 second latency on that. And suddenly that's a whole block that you just pass by asking the chain to give you some information. So how do we make privacy actually fast and usable and seamless? And that's kind of how we're thinking, like the philosophy we have at Status is by integrating it vertically, then we are able to have a faster access and a more seamless access for end users.
Yeah, I think people downstairs, like here it's more Ethereum, like crypto aligned. Like people downstairs, especially, I mean, I respect them, but like, people like EFF, all these folks are good friends of mine, but I think people downstairs don't like us for a reason that we are adding a lot of complexity that actually not necessarily a war. Like, we've been in decentralized social for almost 10 years, right? And the first time one was invited by Dan for Forecaster, and he said, hey, pay $2. I'm like, okay, I can pay $2 fee for a register, but I just let you know, if you only support OP and base chain, which means all your social network guys are KYC. FYI, I'm not sure they know that or not. And there's no enough programmability to just add different layers. We can definitely use like ZK money, like Aztec, to just as a middle one to just make sure the gas fee you pay for register on crypto social network is not KYC. But there's no one doing that. So it's safe to say whoever uses crypto social network is fully KYC, and it doesn't need a court order. It's just very easy to get your KYC data. There's no, we don't have any mindset for application level of privacy and how to program that to make it work. So that's why people downstairs don't like us.
Sorry to hog the mic, but on that topic, Aztec has actually launched really, I think what I could argue is the first application level permissionless KYC ever. With our token sale and ZK Passport, yeah. Really good. Thank you. With Zeke, because with Aztec we're not doing a token sale, and because we're doing it all first party, we're doing it decentralized. It's all happening through Uniswap and their continuous clearing auction. We do need an understanding that somebody's not on the OFAC list. So how do you do that without getting them to fork over all your data? Well, you use the zero-knowledge passport proof, where what they're proving is I'm not on an OFAC list. A lot of what Aztec was built for is that kind of application level privacy where you can code up your own specific criteria and credentials for what you need. And we want Aztec to become effectively the canonical home of credentials on Web3, where you can bridge into and out of Aztec from any other chain, any other network, and privately query about whether somebody or some account has a credential that you need.
Yeah, from my side, I see it in two categories, right? One category is the financial privacy, right? So we have Zcash, Aztec, all of these other protocols. But what I'm personally passionate about is all the other stuff, right? So every day you use Slack, your data is stored on a server. You use Facebook, your data is stored on some random server, right? And they have full access to all end user customer data. And we don't really have mass adopted applications. Maybe Signal is the only application which is used by privacy folks, which is massively adopted, and governments and regular people. And what I would love to see is just these types of applications which have first nice user experience, that they don't cost insane amount of money. And then the third thing is the developers can actually build privacy solutions without thinking, how do I build the encryption? How do I build this? How do I build that? It should be very, very simple. And once we get to that point that, it's we had, internet was decentralized, SMTP. We had this for many, many years. It's a decentralized protocol by nature, but we just gave it away to Google to host SMTP service for us. And now they control the email, right? So the question is how do we get back how do we go back in the future to, having self-hosted stuff? Yeah.
Totally. Let me do one more round, and I think the next prompt I want to ask is, what is the thing you're most excited about in the coming year? So what feature or privacy update are you sort of excited to see on the horizon?
I mean, I am very into federated systems, so hopefully I would love to see more applications like Fileverse. Fileverse is a really good example of an end consumer application which is peer-to-peer, which is encrypted. I don't know if it's encrypted. I said a bold statement. I hope so. I assume. But I would really love to see more stuff like this. And yeah, I mean, if protocols which are peer-to-peer, we had many tries, Urbi tried, GAN protocol tried, many people tried, and I think it's one part of the web which we kind of left behind just because money was more interesting. And I hopefully now I see more and more protocols who are local first, who use CRDTs, who use all of these technologies, which in my opinion are amazing and awesome. And I think we're gonna see a decentralized internet hopefully again in next 10 years.
So actually, I wanted to kind of go back to what you said just before around financial applications. And I think one of the biggest friction of privacy right now is that it's not composable. Most of the privacy solutions are just you deposit and you just leave it there, and that's it. So you don't have your money working for you. It's not composable with other DeFi protocols. So the financial incentive to be part of an anonymity set is actually very low. And I think this is also what explains the low adoption in the space, is that there was, up until now, no real financial incentives to do it. I think this is changing. Like Privacy Pool added some SUSDS support, so you can have like staked USD, like kind of earning yield. You can have STETH, I think they support now, but it's still like very early and it's not composable. So you can borrow on that deposit, for example. You can like you just use it for collateral. This is actually one of the things that we are building on the L2, is to make it as composable with normal DeFi applications. So what I want to do is I want to be able to have my main address deposit into lending markets, just like pure ETH, and then from a fresh new wallet that has nothing to do with anything, start borrowing USD on that. And this is where the real privacy benefits will come from, because suddenly you have private money that you can use anywhere, and that is just earning yield on the other side. I think this is kind of my first answer on the financial part. On the end user part, and this is very linked, of course, the way we initially thought about Status Network was for a gaming layer 2, because it's gasless, so it's very easy to onboard people. They don't have to think about gas, but also because we have that kind of optional privacy, so you can have fog of war and like all the kind of non-disclosed secret stuff in games. And I actually believe that games are going to be the thing that push privacy forward, just because people will want to use them. And by the use case, we'll be forced to have like faster block times. We'll be forced to have like faster proof generation. And so like adoption will come from the increased usage and not us trying to like push like super deep cypherpunk difficult cryptography to people.
Yeah, good answer. I mean, composable privacy hits the nail on the head, and it's also what I'm excited about. Obviously, I'm biased. I've got my own self-interests here, but next year, Aztec is launching, and it's going to be the first fully decentralized, holistic, full-stack, composable private blockchain.
Are you launching it as a stage 2?
Yeah, stage 2 rollup. It has full code privacy. People don't know what transactions you're executing. It has user privacy. They don't know who you are, your counterparties, and has data privacy. They don't see the values. And the reason why I think this is so powerful is because I think privacy is going to eat the world, much in the same way that software ate the world, where we saw from 2000 to 2010, all of these existing like brick and mortar activities moved into the cloud, moved into software, but where you had data custodians, and you had things like Facebook, Google, taking your user data, monetizing it, treating it as their property. And now we're going to be able to build financial systems and products and services and games and coordination mechanisms where that data stays with the user. And we're going to be able to rebuild a huge amount of our existing software ecosystem. The reason why I'm so excited about Aztec is because it makes things so easy and composable. You can write a contract with private information, private state, private functions. You just write it in a programming language, Noir. You don't need to know cryptography. And then your contract can call other contracts to have their own private functions and their own private state and their own private functionalities. And then you can bridge out into the wider ecosystem of L1s and L2s, or bridge back in, and use Aztec as your privacy shield. And you can build things like information asymmetric games. You can build regulated instruments where you can perform your KYC in a decentralized manner, and then inject those assets into DeFi protocols as liquidity. It really is going to be a completely new world that's opening up.
Yeah, I'm like super bullish on you guys, like, Aztec, you guys like status. So Aztec start from ZK money, if I remember correctly, right? So I hope next year we not only have ZK finance, ZK money, privacy, we have like ZK porns, please. Because like last cycle 21, I was living in Japan. I started to teach my like normie Web2 Japanese friend to use like ZK money and all these privacy thing. Okay, after a week, they finished the setup. Then they asked me, okay, where's the porn? Where's the content, dude? Like I studied all this cryptography. Where's the content? Like what's the purpose? Like drug? There's not even drugs. Okay, so what's the content? So I think the next year will be good is for the alternative entry point, alternative way to get the content. For example, like Polymarket, they cannot have an app non-KYC for betting, because the fucking regulation. They can have a website because like web is still relatively open. You can do all the crazy things with VPN, but like if you have like American App Store, it never get you like non-KYC version. But there's All Store in Europe and Japan. If you heard the news, like Apple lose a lawsuit, so they have to, and also in the US they have the lawsuit with Fortnite. So they might have opened up a lot of places actually allow like alternative front end, alternative stores, which have the alternative poly market, right? Alternative like version of poly market for the iOS app. It can be also applied for someone smart enough to engineer like Aztec, ZK status into one like super big OnlyFans. Again, it's doable, just no one doing that. And if you really spend money on OnlyFans, the web experience is not good enough. So I actually encourage people, like developer here, to make more OnlyFans friends. So one of my friends, real world friend, Hong Kong doll, she's like one of the largest OnlyFans creator, and the top Chinese lady in the adult industry ever. And her annual income in 21, 22 was like 10 million. It's like quite an adventure for her to get money and pay tax, all the things, and quite an adventure for the audience to learn all these. I'm pretty sure that's more complicated than learning cryptography. So I think it's the problem of the content. We are almost there. I think now actually learning ZK is, like at least using ZK is not that hard. It's actually easier than just go on Pornhub and just turn off all the ads. Yeah, so I think we are looking for more content and more alternative entry point into this content next year. No matter it's like AI browser, alternative app store, or like alternative front end. If you don't have these, we just always stuck in money. That's not cool.
I can agree that ZK is more interesting, at least, than doing taxes. So I think we got a great there's still a lot of excitement here. And a lot of building and attempts to really get to users, which is exciting, and I think is like a maturing of this ecosystem from we need to like have a solution to identifying these problems and identifying the things that we can really solve. I guess maybe as a final thing, can you relate sort of this programmable crypto and this thought of we've got these primitives that we're using as this differentiator. We've got users that we're trying to like really attach through different problems like social media or so forth. How do we think about bridging that intermediate application layer? Because I think we've all got like sort of specific applications. Are you coming at it from the top? Are you coming at it from the bottom up? And how are you testing? How are you feeling like you're addressing that need and matching it?
It's a good question. For me, it's all about accessibility. When I started this, when I started Aztec, crypto was you needed to be an academic to understand it. Go read through papers and write programming. It was a nightmare. So I want to make it so that I want to make it as easy to develop privacy applications on chain as it is writing a smart contract on Ethereum. As in, it's just code, and yes, there are some semantics you need to understand, but it's just code. And it just works out of the box, right? You have your node that you run, and it syncs to the network, and it gets you your private state, and you just don't have to worry about it. And obviously, this is always a work in progress. I'm not going to claim Aztec is right now as easy as writing on Ethereum, but it's a hell of a lot closer to writing on Ethereum than it is writing a custom ZK circuit. That's for sure. And for me, it's about accessibility. As you said, the demand is here. There is so much latent demand. It's what I've been telling people when I've been talking about privacy, in 2018, 2019, and they're like, well, why do we need privacy on chain, right? And I'm saying, this is sampling bias. If you are in Web3, by definition, you cannot care about privacy because everything's transparent. And so there is a universe of voices and opinions that are not in the room, that are not telling you that their needs are, that are not advocating for their interests. And now that we're seeing privacy technology mature, we're starting to see them come into the room and starting to talk. And now people are like, wow, it's privacy season. Privacy is a big deal. And I'm like, I told you. I told you 7 years ago. That's what I've been building. So yeah, the demand's there. We just need to make it accessible. We need to make it easy. It just needs to work. And people will build.
Yeah, 100%. So that's actually one of the philosophies between behind the stack, the whole stack that we're building. You talked about the entry point, right? We have a wallet. So wallets right now are the kind of most basic entry point to crypto. And what we've been seeing And actually, to your point, during the meme coin mania, you had people watching OnlyFans from their Rabbi wallets or like their Phantom. It was on Phantom. They were watching porn on their Phantom wallets. And I was like, I never thought that people would use their wallet as a browser for this kind of stuff. But actually, they do. So cool. That means that they just use the browser as a normal browser. That's perfect. This is what we want. We want to make it as seamless as just using a browser, using the internet. Except that now, with a bunch of super cool cryptographic tools, we're able to have private interactions with public and private data. And I think zk-TLS is something that is also bringing a lot of new, powerful tools to the space. One of the main challenge that we have right now at Status is to be able to do the whole customer acquisition, onboarding, on-ramping, yields, literally like the whole crypto thing without touching a KYC, without touching identifiable information from public companies. So ZK peer-to-peer, like all those kind of solutions are going in that direction where you can be onboarded to crypto in 2 clicks without revealing any information. And that's kind of the ultimate goal.
From my side, like I have a Web 2 approach to it. So like all the companies I worked at, we would usually like dog food the stuff. So like eat your own dog food, right? So if essentially you're building a product and launching a product, you should be able to use the product yourself, right? And if you're not doing that, then we have a problem, right? So like we have to address this problem at its core. And like essentially what we do at Calimero, we like open sourced everything. So we used Slack. We decided let's kill Slack. Let's build a peer-to-peer solution which replaces Slack and start using it. So like we found drawbacks in the system. We find where are the protocol issues, and essentially improve iteratively. And then we're like, okay, we use Notion, right? So can we build a CRDT-backed Notion replacement which is fully peer-to-peer, and then like use it internally? And essentially, like doing this internally and like getting some friends and family to use it, like we improved, the product, the developer experience itself. Like we're all developers, so like we can, see what are the shortcomings of the system. And essentially, like that's kind of like iteratively we are doing this, and hopefully, like we want to launch, this stuff. Like currently, it's open source, so you can see the code and run it yourselves. But like we never like launched it as a product. But the idea is like I really believe like you should, put the time and effort into using the products you're building, because like if you're not doing it, nobody else will. So it kind of kills the point. And like, yeah.
Yeah, I think more important is like we should not fight. There's no meaning for us to fight, and no matter downstairs, upstairs, here or there, like the last whole year was like, okay, OP people hate like Arbitrum people, like base people hate Binance people. But dude, you're the same thing, like I don't see any difference. Besides, like one is white, one is like yellow. It's different, no difference. But compared to what we're building, like it's actually just not good enough. It's very important to remind everyone here. Like actually, it's a Solana guy first integrate Hyperliquid on a phone, Phantom. It's not any like EVM Ethereum wallet. I don't know why, because Hyperliquid is EVM. It's on Arbitrum. Wow, why? What's the reason? And I mean, when we started like Mask, we're the first one, just trying to bridge like Mask, Twitter and Facebook. What's good? But now in Web3 social, there's no one bridging like Lens and Ficaster and like Blue Sky. So that's why we do the spin-off called Firefly, and then we thought maybe someone gonna do that. We just don't do that like so hard, and figure out actually no one doing that at all. Welcome to download firefly.social. You can figure out actually the Stanley app actually support like both all these social networks. Again, it's crazy. I think just less fight and more building and more entry point, and we just need to program all these like good, cryptographic encryption, ZK stuff together to make it usable. No matter the user want to do 100% lever trade or porn, I mean it's their freedom, but we have to provide the good usability and the holistic, application level. Yeah. So that's something I think very important. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think that's our time. So let's thank all of our panel members once more.